Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, I am Dr. Jamil Abbas from the Physiology Department. And today's topic for the discussion is the posterior pituitary hormones. You know that the posterior pituitary basically it is developed from the extension of the brain. So it's a neurohypophysis. And the posterior pituitary secretes two hormones. These are known as the ADH, the antidiuretic hormone or the vasopressin hormone, and the second one is the oxytocin. We will take one by one. This picture is self-explanatory that when the person they are traveling in a desert, if they don't have the ADH, they can't survive because it is the ADH which makes their survival easy just by conserving the water. And if you move on the next diagram, just wait a minute. If you look at this diagram, that thanks to the God that we have got the ADH, that in a huge sized desert, one drop of water, only one drop of water can save your life, and this is because of your ADH. The ADH is secreted from the basically it is secreted from in the hypothalamus from the supraoptic nucleus, which is known as the magnocellular nucleus, and 5/6 of the that is the major part of the ADH is synthesized in the supraoptic nucleus, and then the smaller part, you can say less amount, is secreted in the paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus, and it is released from the posterior pituitary. Both the hormones, that ADH and oxytocin, both are released from the hypothalamus, and then they move down in the pituitary, posterior pituitary, to save there. Then we have got different osmoreceptors. Actually, we study the ADH osmoreceptor in the thirst center at the same time. But here, when we are studying endocrinology, we are going to ignore the thirst centers and the osmoreceptors. But the ADH osmoreceptor and thirst center, they are discussed in the chapter of the kidney renal physiology in detail. So the osmoreceptors, they are stimulated. These osmoreceptor means the receptor which are sensitive to the osmolarity. That means when the concentration of salt in the body is increased or decreased. So this also concerned with the secretion of the ADH. So these osmoreceptors, which are the receptor for the stimulation of the secretion of ADH, they are stimulated by the 1% increase in the osmolarity of the extracellular fluid, or 10% decrease in the blood volume, or decrease in the blood pressure, or increase in the thirst. So these osmoreceptors, they are stimulated either 1% increase in the osmolarity of the extracellular fluid, 10% decrease in the blood volume or decrease in the blood pressure, and induce thirst. And these osmoreceptors, they are found in different areas of the brain. Mainly they are found in subfornical organ, antroventral region of the third ventricle, organum vasculosum of the lamina terminalis. So these areas which contains the osmoreceptors, and they are sensitive to the osmolarity, decrease in blood volume or blood pressure or induced thirst. They are sensitive to these things. And here that the blood supply to these area lack blood-brain barrier. Actually, we will study in detail. We will see that when we will study the uh, physiology of the brain, the blood-brain barrier. That means this is a barrier which didn't allow anything to move into the brain. Only selective things can move or can cross this blood-brain barrier to enter into the brain. Then the lesions of the antroventral region of the third ventricle will create a problem in ADH secretion, thirst, sodium appetite, and the blood pressure. Now, regulation of the ADH, antidiuretic hormone. What are things which are going to stimulate it, and what are things which are going to decrease their production? Increase of ADH, if you see that the increase in plasma osmolarity, as we have seen in the previous slide, decrease in the blood pressure, decrease in the blood volume, and if you move to the opposite side, just to you have to reverse the things. That if increase in ADH is due to the plasma osmolarity increase, then decrease ADH will be due to the decreased plasma osmolarity. Or if decreased blood volume is going to stimulate the ADH, similarly the increased blood volume will decrease the ADH, and vice versa. Then increase in ADH, you will see that there is a nausea, then hypoxia, then different drugs, morphine, nicotine, and cyclophosphamides. These are the drugs which increase the ADH secretion. On the other side, the alcohol, it decreases the ADH. From here you can well understand that after drinking alcohol, the person has to urinate again and again, has to pass the urine again and again. This is because this will decrease the ADH. Then clonidine, an antihypertensive drug, then haloperidol. This again drug is a psychotic patient, haloperidol. So ADH increase due to the plasma osmolarity, decrease in the blood volume, decrease in the blood pressure, nausea, hypoxia, then different drugs, morphine, nicotine, cyclophosphamides. These are drugs which are going to increase the ADH secretion, and above the drugs the things are just going to be reversed while the drugs are different. And these are drugs which decrease the ADH, the alcohols, clonidine and haloperidol. Now if you look at the diagram, the where your osmoreceptor, here is the diagram, you can see that this nucleus, this is the purple color nucleus, paraventricular nucleus, and this nucleus, the supraoptic nucleus. These two nuclei, they are responsible for the production of the ADH and the oxytocin, these two. Most of it is produced by the supraoptic nucleus and less is produced by the paraventricular nucleus. And this whole is your hypothalamus. This whole is your hypothalamus. From this area is connected with the posterior pituitary through neuronal connections. They are produced over here, then they moved out through the neurons, and then they are stored in the posterior pituitary. So again, look at this diagram. These are the different nuclei, and we are concerned just for the sake of ADH and your oxytocin, this supraoptic nucleus. This one is supraoptic nucleus and this one is the paraventricular nucleus. They are concerned with the production of the ADH, and most of the ADH is produced by the supraoptic nuclei. So you can see in this diagram the different things are present. Here is again a diagram. The paraventricular nucleus, you can see the paraventricular nucleus, the supraoptic nucleus. These two nuclei, they are connected with the posterior pituitary. So these hormones are produced over here, then they move down and stored in the posterior pituitary. Now, here you can see the different areas where the osmoreceptors are present. We have seen the name or subfornical organ. Here is the subfornical organ below the fornix. Now we have got the organum vasculosum of the lamina terminalis. This is the organum vasculosum of the lamina terminalis. This one is this area. So these are the names which I have seen just in the previous slides. So these are two things are present anatomically over here. When you will study the hypothalamus in detail in the CNS physiology, then you will see these things in details. Again, you will see in this diagram that different things are present. This is the organum vasculosum over here, and this is the subfornical organ. This is subfornical organ, this one, and this organum vasculosum, and here is your posterior pituitary. This is your posterior pituitary, and this whole area is a hypothalamus. Now, what is the function of the hypothalamus? Function of the ADH. Basically, ADH performs two functions. One is the conservation of water in the body. Anti-diuresis. Diuresis means more urine. Anti, that means less urine. When there is less urine, that means water is going to be conserved or stored in the body. So this diagram is concerned with the renal physiology. This is a diagram of the nephron. Don't just ignore all these things which are present, which are written over here. we are just concerned with one very important thing. This is a diagram, the nephrons, the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and this is upper part of the loop of Henle, and this is a distal convoluted tubule. Now this portion, which is a, you can say, bold line, brownish line, which is moving in this direction, from here up to this area, all this area is impermeable to the water. This area of the nephron is impermeable to the water. Now it will become permeable to the water under the effect of ADH. When the ADH will come into the action, this area will begin to reabsorb. It will begin to reabsorb water from this area. We'll see soon how it's going to be reabsorbed. So the main function of the ADH, antidiuretic hormone, to conserve water is showing its action on the upper part of the loop of Henle and the distal convoluted tubule, which is normally impermeable but becomes permeable under the effect of the ADH. Now here you can see the two primary functions. To retain water in the body, we have seen that how it is going to retain the water in the body by showing its action on the last part of the nephron, and this last part of the nephron also assists in the reabsorption of the urea in this area. It not only reabsorbs water from this area, it also assists in the reabsorption of the urea from this area. So urea reabsorption is also assisted by this ADH. Now the second function of this vasopressin is to constrict the blood vessel. It is strong vasoconstrictor substance. Now it is derived from the preprohormone precursor that is synthesized in the hypothalamus and stored in the vesicles at the posterior pituitary to be released into the bloodstream. However, some vasopressin may also be released directly into the brain, and it plays an important role in the social behavior, sexual motivation, and pair bonding and maternal response to the stress. Very short half-life, just 16 to 24 minutes. This half-life is. Now this thing we have shown earlier, that function, one of the function of the kidney, antidiuresis. It increases the water permeability of the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct cells in the kidney, thus allowing the water reabsorption and excretion of more concentrated urine. That means whenever there is a weather change, when there is, suppose there is a hot environment, hot weather, at that time you need ADH to conserve the water, and you will pass less urine, and that is known as the concentrated urine, because less amount of water with more salts or more urea is secreted out from the body, with less water. Water is conserved in the body, but you have to excrete the urea or other waste products through that less amount of urine, that is known as the concentrated urine. Or you can say in the winter season, when you need to pass more volume of the urine because your sweating system is not functioning in the winter season. In the hot season, sweat is a very good thing to remove the sodium from the body, but in the winter season sweating is not there. You have to pass the urine more in amount and to remove the sodium from the body, and that is known as the diluted urine. So this concentrated urine and the diluted urine is by virtue of the presence of this ADH or the absence of the ADH. Then the urea reabsorption, I have told you earlier through the diagram that it can increase the permeability of the inner medullary collecting duct by increasing the cell surface expression of urea transporters. Then on the CVS, it raises the blood pressure by increasing the peripheral resistance due to its vasoconstrictive effect that is important in hypovolemic shock, and this is not important in a normal healthy person. When the person is in the shock, at that time it will come into the action and it cause the peripheral vasoconstriction or resistance will increase, and will raise the blood pressure. In the CNS, it also concerns the social and the sexual behavior. And basically, the site of action of this vasopressin, increase the expression of the aquaporin. Aquaporin, these are the channels which are produced within the nephron, and they are again after the production they are put on the walls through which the water can enter. These aquaporin channels that provide a physical pathway for the water to pass through the principal cells. Together, aldosterone and vasopressin let the principal cells control the quantity of the water reabsorbed. Actually, the site of action of the ADH and the aldosterone. Aldosterone is another hormone which is sodium retaining hormone and potassium excreting hormone. The action of this is the site of action is the principal cells, which are these principal cells which are the 90%. I will move to the diagram back. Here, this portion, the bold line, you will see here you can find 90% of this area is filled with the principal cells and 10% is filled with the intercalated cells. We will see in detail when we will study the renal physiology. So the principal cells is the main site of action of the ADH and the aldosterone. We will see later on how the aldosterone works for the conservation of the sodium and the excretion of the potassium. So site of action is the site of action of the your ADH is the principal cells. Wait a minute. Here you can see formation of a concentrated urine when antidiuretic hormone levels are high. So when the levels are high, water is more absorbed in this area. Water is absorbed from this area and salt is absorbed from this area. So when the water, more and more water is reabsorbed, what will happen? Less water will be excreted in the urine. So in this way, more water is retained in the body. And here is a diagram of the different cells. Here you can see the greenish cells, these are the principal cells, and these are the cells, the brownish cells, they are the intercalated cells. Then when you need to produce dilute urine, that means urine of more volume, more water. Here you will see in this area there is no reabsorption of water. There is no reabsorption of water. So when there is no reabsorption of water, that means water will remain in this area and it will be excreted from the body through the urine. So ADH is responsible through its presence or absence to produce a concentrated or a dilute urine. Here is the action of the ADH. Look at this animation very carefully. This ADH is coming down from the blood vessel. You can see the ADH coming down. Soon you will see here is the ADH. It's going to bond with the receptor over here and it's going to convert the ATP into cyclic AMP. This cyclic AMP is going to stimulate protein kinase A. This protein kinase A is going to stimulate this receptor, the aquaporin. This aquaporin, it will move forward and water will enter through this aquaporin inside this. Here is the water, OH2. Here you can see the water. Again, ADH is coming down, attached with the receptor, conversion of ATP into cyclic AMP, protein kinase A, and this protein kinase A will stimulate the protein and it will cause the movement of the aquaporin to the border of this area through which the water can reabsorb. So this is the mechanism of action of ADH to different areas. Now we are not concerned the thirst. Actually we study the thirst, ADH and the hormone receptor simultaneously. But this was all about the ADH, the vasopressin antidiuretic hormone. Basically it has got two main functions: to retain the water in the body and to constrict the blood vessels. These are the main two functions of the ADH. Then we move to another hormone, that is the posterior pituitary hormone, and that hormone is known as oxytocin. Here is the oxytocin. This oxytocin is also known as a love hormone because it creates a bonding between the two persons, oxytocin. And this oxytocin is also produced from the same areas of the brain, hypothalamus, that is a supraoptic nucleus, and the paraventricular nucleus is produced from the same areas. And this is the chemical formula of the your hormone oxytocin. You see the different size of the heart are here, and these are made over here because it is a bonding hormone. It creates love between two persons. It creates love between mother and its child, mother and his baby, and between other relations. This oxytocin is very important. Then this oxytocin is produced in the magnocellular neurosecretory cells of the supraoptic and the paraventricular nuclei and stored in the posterior pituitary. Then it is released into the blood from the posterior lobe. Oxytocin receptors expressing cells are located in other areas, including amygdala, stria terminalis. Actually, these are the terminologies we will see in detail when we will study the CNS physiology. In the pituitary gland, oxytocin is packaged in large, dense core vesicles from which oxytocin is derived by enzymatic cleavage. Then oxytocin actions. Structurally, this oxytocin is similar to the vasopressin, that is ADH. Structurally, it is similar to that one. Not their action. One of the very important actions is the let-down reflux. Actually, what is meant by this let-down reflux? Keep in mind that the milk production in the human being is under the effect of prolactin production, P for production and P for the prolactin. So prolactin is responsible for the production of the milk in the humans and also in the animals. And you will see in this diagram that these are the acini, these are the acini. Here you can say these are the acinus over here. And between the acini, you have got the myoepithelial cells. You can see these are the myoepithelial cells. So these acini, they are filled with the milk due to the under the effect of prolactin. So when they are filled with the milk, these acini, when they are filled with the milk, then the myoepithelial cells which are surrounding them, these are the myoepithelial cells which are surrounding them, they are going to contract. Due to their contract, there will be a sequencing, you can say dropper-like effect. When you press a dropper, that is when they have got squeezing effect. They are going to squeeze these acini, and due to that effect, the dropper, like when you press the dropper of a medicine, the rubber dropper, immediately the medicine is going to be ejected from the dropper. Similarly, the case over here, when the myoepithelial cells, these are the myoepithelial cells, when they will contract, so these acini which are already filled by the milk will be moved down. So this is known as the let down effect, and this usually starts when the baby is going to suck the nipple. The impulses from here reach to the brain, and through the posterior pituitary there is a production or immediate release of the oxytocin. This oxytocin will cause the contraction of the myoepithelial cells, and they will cause the squeezing effect on the acini, and the milk is moved down into the mouth of the baby. This is known as the let down effect. Production of the milk is under the effect of which hormone? That is your prolactin. Again, you can see this, in this diagram, you can well understand this diagram, that you have got these are the myoepithelial cells, and these are the acini cells, and milk is produced from here, the different parts of lung, and they are drained into the excretory ducts. So due to the contraction of these myoepithelial cells, all these acini, they are going to be contracted, and milk is moved down and ejected. This is known as the let down effect. Then, a very important effect is the cervical dilatation and the uterine contraction during the labor. This is very important effect during the process of the delivery or during the process of the labor. Then cervix is a part of the uterus, the lower portion of the uterus. You can say the mouth of the uterus. This is cervix, and this cervix has to be dilated before the parturition, before the delivery. So this hormone, the oxytocin, is going to cause the cervical dilatation, and at the same time uterus, which is present above it, is going to contract, and due to their contractions, the baby or the fetus is pushed down. So this effect is this effect is due to the oxytocin hormone. So let down effect and cervical dilatation and uterine contraction during labor. Then social behavior and wound healing is also related with the oxytocin. These things, the social behavior, and these are the research works which showing these things are not usually written in the textbooks, but research has shown that the person lacking the oxytocin, they are socially not very much contact with other people, and they also assist, this oxytocin also assists in the wound healing. Then this oxytocin hormone assists in the sexual arousal. Then increase in trust and reduce the fear. That means that mutual trust between two persons is enhanced in the presence of the oxytocin. Then it reduces the fear. Then it reduces the symptoms of withdrawal in addicts. That means a person who is addicted to different drugs, if these drugs are removed from them, then the withdrawal symptoms are there. These oxytocin can reduce these symptoms. Then initiation of maternal behavior. That is, maternal love to this baby is due to the oxytocin. Then affiliations and attachments. Then last one is the oxytocin regulates the GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid mediated synaptic signaling in the fetal brain during delivery and reduces the brain vulnerability to the hypoxic damage. Actually, during delivery, it is you can say the fetus is very vulnerable stage, and this GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, it mediates the synaptic signaling in the fetal brain so that the feelings of the trauma should not be there, and the brain vulnerability to the hypoxic damage should be reduced. Again, this is a function of the oxytocin, or you can say directly that the oxytocin reduces the brain vulnerability to the hypoxic damage. So these are the functions of the oxytocin. Outside the brain, oxytocin containing cells have been also identified. These are the areas: in females in the corpus luteum in the placenta, in male in the testicles, interstitial cells of the leading, and both sexes in the retina, in the adrenal medulla, thymus, in the pancreas. These are the areas where the oxytocin containing cells are identified, they are located. So this was all about the oxytocin, and we have seen it earlier that the ADH. These are the two hormones which are coming from the posterior pituitary. Okay, thank you very much. We will see you in the next lecture with the thyroids.